Now, I want to move to the part that I'm sure many of you are waiting for, but a quick heads up. I mentioned before that we have a full stack ecosystem now. In Toronto, we announced our HPC initiative. It is not just a collection of projects, HTC Grid, OpenGriz, Open Resource Broker, and 5Spot. It is an ecosystem that we're starting to really coalesce and bring together. And that's, I think, the power of what we can do here at FINOS. These projects were originally contributed by 4 different firms, whether it be vendors, whether it be banks. They are working together to integrate in a unified ecosystem. And that's what we're seeing, again, more and more happening across the whole foundation. So if you are into HPC, check out hpc.finos.org and get involved. So, I guess we went, well, I guess Craig said agentic, and I think James mentioned it at the beginning. But I think we went almost 49 minutes without talking about AI. I think that's a feat, no? Do I get a round of applause? Feel like we are in AI overload mode, but we have to talk about it, and we're doing a lot. I will quickly tee up by saying, unless you've been, living under a rock, it's been a very exciting time for open source. Not only, obviously, if you ask the model of your choice to build an app, it's likely going to do through open source software, or it will. But open source is quite literally eating AI in many different ways. I've been, till February this year, I've been leading Linux Foundation Europe, so I've been working quite a bit on digital sovereignty. Open source is a huge pillar for sovereign AI. To think about the training, inference, and agentic stack, the building blocks and the core protocols are all open source. And if you're more on the business side, if you invest, commercial open source investments in the AI space have skyrocketed last year, fueled by some mega rounds. The amounts of investment is pretty crazy right now in the AI space. But there were 26 billion invested in commercial open source as a pre-established category of investment of commercial open source AI in 2025. And so it's not surprising that we're seeing the need for neutral stewardship, whether it be the Linux Foundation, whether it be in FINOS, becoming ever more important. We're living effectively a Kubernetes moment for AI. Earlier this year, we announced the Agentic AI Foundation. MCP is part of the Linux Foundation family. This year, it's about agentic commerce. X402 was added, again, to the roster of openly governed projects in the Linux Foundation. And just below, if you guys are good at playing the logo game, A2A, MCP, agency, PyTorch, VLLM, again, across the whole stack. The Frontier Labs and all of you build on core open source components. And so we had to do something about it. We've been working quite a bit about it on AI at FINOS. Over the last few days, we launched our new one-stop shop, AI@finos.org. If you want to learn, and I'm going to try in the next few minutes to give you a glimpse of what that entails. But we are trying to really bring the perspective of financial services to the AI conversation. And now we have a place where you can learn all about it. So how do we fit in this big, growing open source AI ecosystem in the Linux Foundation? Well, a simple way to think about it is upstream. We are seeing this huge amount of innovation on the core protocols. We will remain focused on financial services requirements and financial services perspectives. Whether it be risk and compliance, whether it be evals and benchmarks, whether it be the needs of this industry, turning the expertise of this industry into requirements for agents, into skills. If I double click on that, if I go one level deeper, our AI strategic initiative, as you might know, our board every year selects strategic initiatives, which are areas where we apply more focus, we apply more funding, we apply more FINOS staff. AI, unsurprisingly, is one of them. And this strategic initiative really has 3 prongs. One, we want to harmonize the plethora of fragmented regulation, best practices, and standards into something that we can put in the hands of developers to govern AI at scale without hampering innovation. 2, we, again, want to turn the expertise of this industry into specs and requirements for all the projects that we had in FINOS to enable agentic workflows inside your firms and across firms. Might take a while, but we're getting there. And then, obviously, we want to continue harnessing the power of the community. But we want to do it on the basis of leaders from financial services that tell us what the priorities are. So let me tell you a little bit about how we're going about each of these pillars. When I first brought, it was like post-GPT-3, I went to the board and I said, okay, guys, shall we do something about AI? Unsurprisingly, the answer was governance, governance, governance. That's the story of our industry. But it's also one area that was clearly identified as pre-competitive. I think we're all trying to figure out here, like for software, it took years for banks to understand that not everything is competitive, and there's areas that we can collaborate on. I think in the space of AI, we're all still trying to figure it out. But one area where it's clearly pre-competitive is governance. And that's what we started working on 2 years ago. Our AI governance framework, if you guys are familiar with the Dilbert comics, doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, doesn't try to create the 26th standard on top of the existing 25. It's about mapping regulations, it's about mapping best practices, and again, bringing it down all the way to controls that your firms can use at scale and don't hamper innovation. Hold your thoughts there, because we have more details on this from some of our upcoming speakers. But it's not just about the governance framework. As I said before, our projects are coming together to deliver an end-to-end governance as code pipeline. You heard about Calm. You're probably familiar with Common Cloud Control. Flux Nova, we just talked about it. If you take all of these projects together, and we'll hear it in a second, you can either observe and monitor yourself one adoption path. We have a governance end-to-end, governance as code end-to-end pipeline, or we're looking to absolutely work in certifying the ecosystem on the basis of these growing industry standards. Our second pillar, as I said, is building specs for the industry. I've been spending my week coding some of those websites, or vibe coding, specifying some of our websites. It is pretty clear that, I don't think software is going anywhere, but that the next level of abstraction is specification. Like we've seen over the years, programming languages become more and more abstract. We're getting closer and closer to English language, or whatever language you speak, becoming the way we write software. And so that's our second pillar. It is admittedly less developed than the first one. We've been working on governance for 2 years. But what we see the opportunity is we have a unique subject matter expertise in this industry. You know how your workflows work. You know how your the regulation you have to comply with. So if we take those use cases and turn them into requirements across, governance, evals, data extensions to our CDM, workflow blueprints, we can really create a set of specifications that then we can use to certify open source projects, vendors, agents. And again, not reinventing the wheel. We want to partner. We have increased credibility in the industry, and so we can bring together existing organizations and trade associations and regulators in the game. We don't want to create, again, yet another standard here. And if you want a glimpse into the future, one of our most interesting projects lately that is really diving into spec-driven development is TraderX. Dove is not only one of the board members, but one of our most active contributors. He has taken TraderX and turned it into a fully spec-driven project. This is an educational project. That's how it started. Now, finally, through spec-driven development, we're able to have a full graph of states where learners can really step through the learning curve. And I really encourage you to take a look at the project and to go to Dove's session in Burton Redgrave at 12 p.m. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I trust him, it makes sense. Last but not least, we want to catalyze the community, but doing so through a dedicated group of leaders that can tell us what the priorities are. Honestly, I'm shell-shocked by the amount of news that come from the West Coast. I'm based in San Francisco, and it's really hard sometimes to sift through the noise. And so it's amazing that we're bringing people together in our community. You hear all these new projects. We have over 4,000 people joining our developer events in the last year, but we need leadership. And so, hot off the press, 2 years ago, we announced our FINOS AI Fund. It's a dedicated governing board made of AI leaders in financial services. First and foremost, the 4 founding members are DTCC, Morgan Stanley, RBC, and NatWest. They will drive our strategy on AI. So I'm very excited to now pair the community with financial services leaders. So please give them a big round of applause. And so that's where the fund sits. It's an extension of our governing board. It will lead everything AI. What does it mean, lead everything AI? This is an open source community. This is not a top-down organization. But use cases. We want to know what are not only the important use cases, but what are the pre-competitive ones that we can work on together. What are the adoption paths? How are you going to take the AI governance framework? How are you going to take Calm and Common Cloud Controls and bring them in your organization? We have a unique captive audience to do so, and we will use it. And obviously, dedicated funding. This is an additional funding that these members are giving to FINOS, dedicated to everything AI. And yeah, money is not everything, but in the space of AI, allows us to move much faster. So if you're interested in amplifying the voice of financial services in the space of AI, please consider joining us and be one of the leaders that drive everything AI at FINOS. But don't take it from me. I would like to bring on stage 2 of our 4 founding members that are going to tell us why they joined the AI Fund and what is their vision for it. Please welcome on stage Jerome, Greig. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, everybody. We're both bald, but I'm Jerome. And I'm wearing this not because I'm insane, but
Am I bald?
Yeah. Well, we've got massive ponytails at the back, but we'll never show them. So yeah, I'm wearing this because I'll get very hot. So this isn't because I'm insane, it's because I'm very hot, so I want to hide that shame from you. So I'm here to talk about why DTCC decided to make the straightforward decision for us to join the FINOS AI Fund and why it matters, and hopefully encourage some of you to come to the same conclusions or encourage your internal stakeholders to come to the same conclusions and join us. So why join the FINOS AI Fund? So specifically as a financial market infrastructure provider, which is what DTCC is, quick open bracket, DTCC does clearing, settlement, matching for all of the US and a lot of the matching for the rest of the world, along with derivative reporting. And you occasionally hear the word quadrillion thrown around about us, and it is true. You can check our website. But because of that position we sit in, everything is around collaboration. It's around the industry view. Broadly speaking, with probably very, very few exceptions, the financial industry is predicated on the collaboration, the standards, the regulations all being the same. Even to the point of when you want to get money out of a cash point machine, all the cards work on every cash point. Every cash point works the same. The money that comes out is identical for every transaction that you follow. These are all standards that we've just developed over a long time, and now we take for granted that we've centralized, come together as an industry, solve this problem once, and then we all benefit from it. So we're already very used to this, and when we don't have it, we know what happens. The fragmentation increases, the complexity skyrockets, and we each incorporate those costs either temporarily into our P&L or forever, and they become very entrenched, very difficult to remove. And worse, we solve the same problem over and over and over again. And on one hand, this can be great. We all like leaving our company, joining a new company, and be able to say, well, at my last firm, ... and everyone looks at you like the wizened wizard which you are. However, from a collective standpoint of trying to reduce the cost of capital, reduce the cost per trade, make capital find the most useful place to invest, where you can be truly innovative, where you can truly have a competitive advantage, where you can differentiate, it's not great, where we keep solving the same problem over and over again. So, as already mentioned, obviously when Gab just mentioned it during the Flux Nova conversation, the FINOS AI Fund really helps solve this in multiple ways. So firstly, it's neutral. I've been part of many industry working groups, and if you get that balance slightly wrong, it's very easy for the buy side to say, well, the sell side would obviously ... Or, well, it's great for the buy side, but in the sell side. Or, well, they would want that because, and you always get into, well, what stakeholder is advocating for it? FINOS brings us all together and they're neutral about trying to solve this problem. And they're always also focusing on the non-differentiating, non-competitive problem set, which is things that collectively we all suffer from. Therefore, it just reduces the temperature where we can focus on solutions versus, litigating the nature of the problem and potentially where blame sits. So that's why the fund is a really great way of directing that investment in a more neutral sense. So as well as obviously money, as Gab said, money isn't everything, but money helps. DTC has contributed its use cases, and there should be a little and in there, apologies, and taxonomy. So we've got some reference of exactly what are our priorities as a financial market infrastructure provider that are more neutral. Again, all of these are the non-competitive, hopefully non-differentiated use cases that we can all coalesce around and start maybe using some of those as inputs to decide what types of problems we want to solve. And then finally, just touching on the role of open source. So one point I wanted to belabor here again, I know we all buy into this, but sometimes I have to advocate for it to other stakeholders, is this is a way of delivering most effectively. It's not about the open source because open source is cool. Open source gives you the ability to not only be transparent versus some of those working groups where they're really great for a time, everything sits in email attachments, and then as soon as that working group disbands, it's gone. This will persist. This will be in the open, and this will allow for that adoption ramp to increase over time, like we just heard on Flux Nova. Non-members can contribute. That's something if you have a fixed working group you just can't do. Everything can be seen. You can give the information back over time, and then that adoption can just become much more impactful over time as well. Okay, this slide looked amazing when I developed it on my laptop, and then it got really washed out. So if you can just imagine this was a much better slide, that's what I saw in my head. So how the FINOS Fund also helps us, that's the third section, but I'll lead you to how we got there. Gab just mentioned, we had a hackathon, and we had over 60 teams from 70 organizations with 300 participants. And we brought them all together, and we didn't just want experiments. We wanted people to be focusing on things that would have an impact if they became live, on things that people would like to become live. So they all needed to have a certain level of substance to us for them to select them and for them to work on them. And then we had some winners. And we're going to hear more about CalmGuard later, so I won't touch upon that. But on the other two, these were common problems that we all face. So one of them was focused on post-trade breaks, which happen all the time. Obviously, most trades are STP, but when they're not, they can take a large amount of time to fix. There are common patterns in there, which maybe as an individual firm, you might struggle with what you see as your long tail. Collectively, they are not a long tail. They are repeatable patterns that we could solve, and AI will definitely and does help with this. So we have some great solutions there. And then similarly on the threat intelligence one, we're all looking for common threats. We have a lot of great ways to come together as cyber functions to share those, remediate those fixes. But this is about a way of using AI to help that workflow for your threat hunters to be able to find the specific problem and the remediation quicker to save them many hours of time. And so where FINOS really helps on all of this is that persistence layer and that focus layer. Like we've all been part of hackathons, things happen, they're all great, everyone feels really good. 3 years from now, you see the same problem being solved in a slightly different way based on the latest, coolest technology. 3 years later, repeat, repeat, repeat. So this will give us that focus at that executive level. It will give us some funding on actually taking these things from, let's call them prototypes, into like hard and scalable solutions, and then we can achieve the industry value that we expect. So thank you very much. That was everything I had.
Okay. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Greig Cowan. I'm head of AI and data science at NatWest. As you can hear, I'm from Scotland, so no mention of last night's result with Brazil, please. What I'd like to do today is, I guess, open up the conversation and push things forward with regards to how can financial services build their own AI governance and observability stack using open standards. I think that the key idea is really quite simple here. So as agentic AI moves closer to real customer and colleague workflows, we see that governance cannot simply sit outside that system as it has done historically. It must become part of how AI is built, deployed, monitored, and continuously improved. And in other words, we want to have governance baked in as code as part of that process. Now, I'm kind of stating the obvious here, but financial services AI runs on open source already. So from the models that we use, the frameworks that we build on top of, the orchestration tools, the observability platforms, these that we run these systems on, they all come from the open source ecosystem, including things like security tooling and cost reporting standards. Where we see the gap today is in the integration layer between these different components. What we still need to build, and what Gab spoke around, was a shared stack that turns policy into controls, controls into runtime evidence, and then that evidence into confidence. And that confidence is for engineering teams, scientists, risk teams, auditors, and regulators, so that we can build trust with our customers and we can deliver those great customer outcomes that we're all looking to achieve. So the question is no longer whether we can open source belongs in financial services AI. It's really around how do we work together so that we can build that missing governance layer together. Consider this situation. So now we have maybe an AI agent, there's that word again, agent, that's handling a real customer request inside a bank. Before that agent can be released to production, every organization, every team has to answer the same core questions. Does that agent have the right authority to take action on behalf of the customer? Is it acting within the limits that we set? Do we have assurance that it's doing the right thing and behaves as expected? And can operations teams, can they monitor it? Can they intervene? Can they recover from some incident? And then is security and identity, are those applied consistently across the interaction between the AI and the agent? Different teams in the enterprise own these different questions, but that control problem remains the same across everyone. And every financial institution is now trying to solve those challenges, but doing it in a different way. And that leads to the problem we see on this slide. So across the industry, different teams are independently writing the same policies, controls, runtime checks, audit mechanisms, and cost reporting processes. I'm sure we can all see that today. That work is necessary to build that confidence and that trust that I spoke around before, but it's not typically where organizations will differentiate. I'm sure we can all agree that no customer is going to choose a bank because they wrote a slightly better or different internal control for AI agent observability. Okay, that's not where the value is. So what we're trying to do through FINOS and what we're trying to do today is propose that we come together and we mutualize that control layer where there's no competitive advantage, but then differentiate through the AI experiences that we build on top of that in the enterprise. And the question is, why are our best people working in this and rebuilding these same controls time and time again? These are scarce skills. People who understand AI, risk, engineering, security, regulation, evals. These are exactly the people we want and need to be focused on high value, high innovation use cases. If every institution is building the same foundations again separately, we inevitably slow ourselves down. But if we can build these shared controls openly, we're going to create a stronger baseline for the whole industry, and that frees up teams, people in this room, to then focus on better customer outcomes. The good news is, as you've seen today already, that control stack is already taking shape. We have the building blocks already in place for governance, codification of controls, security, observability, cost management, and visualization. And where we see the value is coming from connecting those things together into one continuous control plane for AI and the buzzword AI agents. I think that should hopefully mean that policy doesn't sit as a document on some virtual shelf collecting dust, but it becomes executable and version controlled. The controls themselves are not manual checklists that are done at development time or through some periodic review. They become runtime checks that run continuously. And then the evidence and the evals that the AI agents are performing and doing what they are meant to do, they're not reconstructed after the fact, after some incident, but they're captured continuously through the observability layer. This stack should be open, composable, modular, and reusable so that institutions adopt the parts that they need, extend the parts that they want, and contribute back where they think it's appropriate. You can see more about this at 1:35 today with James McLeod, my colleague. He'll do a live demo of this to you. I think this is why coordination matters. We've heard about this already today, but we now have the launch of the FINOS AI Fund, the AI governing body. The industry now has a mechanism through which it can prioritize on use cases and find where the gaps are. It can deliver and execute on those by bringing people together, and it can foster adoption of these new tools and gather feedback from the community. The model here is one of shared investment. We can identify the gaps, build once, reuse across the industry, and then iterate to continually improve. Ideally, this does not remove competition, but it will create the safer foundations for competition to thrive. And if we can agree on that control layer, we can overall move faster, reduce duplicated effort, and give regulators, stakeholders, much greater confidence and trust in how AI is being deployed to drive those great customer outcomes. So I think just to close off, AI is scaling, but it can only scale with trust. And it's through coming together through the FINOS Foundation that we can really build this common control layer that will allow us to build those innovative AI solutions on top of that and deliver those great customer outcomes. And with that, I'll hand back to Gab. Thank you.
Thank you, Greig. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am truly amazed. Thank you, Jerome and Craig. It's one of the hardest parts of what we do is matching this amazing amount of innovation with leadership and prioritization from the industry. It's very much even in this keynote. We have a developer population, we have leaders and in different spaces. Having this come together in the space of AI for us is unique. A few years ago, you would have had a fireside chat and a panel talking about the future. This is happening now, and it's real. And if production helps me out, I have a little teaser for you.
Imagine a use case, like a loan approval, that would be built on a solution architecture, issued from a reference architecture that implements AI design patterns crafted by leading AI innovators, and implementing the relevant controls to mitigate the risks defined by the FINOS AI governance framework. And imagine now that this architecture is codified using Calm, ensuring compliance with your organization's GRC and security policies. Imagine also that the cloud services powering this use case are fully aligned with the FINOS Common Cloud controls, and that to support the orchestration of multiple agents, you leverage Flux Nova and its cutting-edge AI features, empowering agents with long-running processes and durable execution, while keeping humans in the loop to oversee the entire process. And imagine if all of this would be observable, to monitor in real-time processes, task executions, risks versus controls, and token consumption. This isn't the future. This is happening today. This is AI at FINOS.
I'm sure you got it. Done. Governance solved. Kidding aside, if you want to learn more, this is the first time that we're putting together a use case, all the way from a use case to all of our projects in the tech risk space, really providing, sort of bringing this governance as code vision to life. So go check out James and Olivier's talk at 1:35. I'm really excited. And if you wanna, as usually, this is not an easy problem for us to solve. Funding is one angle. If you're a leader here, we'd love for you to join the board. But contribution and expertise, we have a unique amount of, as Craig was saying, talent here. Come and contribute, participate to any of your projects, and help us bring this vision forward. Thanks to all the maintainers that are working together to bring the projects together.